Yeah, let me. I'm gonna turn up this track.
Stretch out before you play your solos.
Yeah, you need a guitar toss. Awesome. How that level work for you?
Yeah, it's pretty loud.
Tone is probably not exactly what we had on the original, but it's close. I want to think.
I mean, yeah, the thing, obviously with layering, it's cool. Like this part might be like, oh, that's way too in the forefront. It could be out of context, but that's the beauty of mixing.
Yeah,
like just this little, 8-note thing.
Yeah.
Buried in the mix a little bit, it just makes the part a little more unique. And,
yeah.
And I'm a fan of like listening to records on headphones and
hearing cool
hearing
things,
little things like that. Yeah.
That's one thing we learned when we did the cover album for Between the Buried and Me. We covered a bunch of commercial covers and we didn't, I had never thought about how layered a lot of records are. Yeah. There's so many things going on. The song might be straightforward and it's got guitar, drums, bass, and vocals or whatever. But then there's so many other stuff slightly buried in the mix, and that's what makes it sound real. That's what makes it sound produced. Now, for instance, this thing right here, and Tommy, we don't have to do this, but I'm going to just copy and paste this just to show people. Okay. One of the luxuries of having everything quantized is that obviously this part and the next time it happens, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. I think on the record, we just track stuff for real, right? Just, just to have variety or whatever. But, like if it's supposed to be the same, then you can always just copy and paste it. And having the click track, having everything quantized, it's going to set right in time. I'm just tabbing to transit, I'm tabbing to the click here. It's like normally with BT Band, we do everything for real, so normally we don't copy and paste or whatever. But there's a psychological reason to copy and paste with a lot of pop music and things of that nature. A lot of times they'll, even artists with huge budgets and things like that, the choruses and stuff, if you hear, say you have a commercial structured song and it's got like the 2 or 3 or 4 choruses or something like that, if you hear the exact same thing again and then a third time, it's like subconsciously is more ingrains in your, in your brain, like just harder. So it's like there's a reason that you can do that or whatever. But it depends on like with Tommy or whatever, and Between the Buried and Me, they're more of a performance-based, emphasis or whatever. I think as far as what you guys are actually doing is more based on performance. So we go for performance on everything.
Yeah, and I know. There are courses on my record. I know, especially since it is a verse chorus kind of approach rather than the band. We've taken that approch a little bit with some courses, okay.
Gotcha.
Just to make it,
just to make sure it pops and is exactly the same. Usually with the BT Bam and Tommy or whatever, like it'll be some elements will be the same, but then he'll add more later or take away.
We're all about building, so yeah.
Yeah, just it'll be the same but not the same, So it's just that progressive in nature, in approach or whatever. But we got that. You wanna do the clean thing?
Yeah, we can do that.
And there's no more guitars, is there, after that?
It's just the verse, and then that's that.
Yeah, well, we got the clean rhythm and then the little lead thing over top.
Yeah, there's a few little, just a clean rhythm. Yeah.
So a light, verbed out, dry part. Okay, I'm going to change the channel on this. And just for the people out there, the setting we're using for the rhythm, we went for this regular Mark IV setting. The Mark V amp allows for a new extreme metal setting, which doesn't make sense for this, but we use a more classic Mark IV setting. And it also has the Mark II gain structure on here, which is great. But I'm going to change this to the more clean channel.
Oh yeah, I was like, what is this?
And I'm gonna actually leave the
Trying to think what pickup. It's too bright, huh?
maybe the middle.
Yeah.
Like I'm ironically pretty flat here, except for the master. And this is the smiley face EQ, and everybody hates on that. But these things, you have to have that, because if you have the mids at 0 on this thing, it just sounds so boxy and mid-rangey. And it's almost like they know people are going to do that, so they just make, I don't know. But that's just like from the Mark IV and even the predecessor, any of the ones with the Mesa graphic. I mean, it's just you always see that, and it is always like a joke kind of thing or whatever. Like I would usually never do that on a bass or whatever, but for this thing it works. But this enables, like, think, play Tommy. Do we have the modulation? That sounds kind of cool. Or was it just verb?
Well, I know
I think it was just verb, actually.
We probably had modulation on that.
Yeah. Let's just try that for
Okay.
sake of time.
Stretch.
Yeah, and I do
Stretch
remember
my
you did the tremolo bar stuff. And for those of you at home, we have some stuff we probably won't track here, but it's just we have percussion in this song. It's just
Yeah.
it's literally a loop of Will
Yeah, which will.
with a shaker or something, and we just were able to loop it.
Percussion's one of those things that I realize it's a very hard thing to track.
Yeah,
People think they're like, oh, tambourine, oh,
gonna be
shaker.
easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard.
It's really hard. Yeah.
I mean, the guys that are good,
they can play a whole.
I mean,
and do
yeah.
a whole song,
Song.
to be that
Perfect.
consistent is an endurance test, you know.
Yeah.
But like I said, normally what I do, another benefit from having the drums quantized is, like I said, Will just improv'd a bunch of percussion stuff, and like if we caught a cool moment of something he did, we could just take it, grab it, and loop it out. And it's this is one of the things. It's like, obviously we want to be performance, so we actually used the performance. We looped it out because this is stuff. This would be, if Tommy ever does this material live, he could just put this on the background. There's not going to be a percussion player on stage, so to me, there's that's not a compromise in integrity or anything. But the only other percussion we had in this particular song was, I think, some just little cymbals.
the bell, or yeah.
I don't even know what that is. It's just a
It was a little bell.
little tiny cymbal we found laying around. I don't know. I think it's actually my son's little toy thing.
Which, yeah, that was Will's idea. That was so cool.
Yeah, sounded great. But yeah, let's do this this clean rhythm for the verse. Sorry to stop you. I'm going to turn the gain down a little bit.
Okay.
That's what I was saying about going with your gut. I want a little more presence, a little less gain. Go ahead and try again. There we go.
Yeah.
It just sounded a little dull in the mix, and I just know in terms of layering that's,
Yep. Yeah, it cuts a little more now. How'd you feel? That was pretty good.
Sound great? You want to double that?
It was close. Yeah. And like at the end there, you know how I kind of built it up. That's something, you know, in the studio. I just as working with you a lot, I know we can make that build you know, by mixing.
Natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something to always think about.
Yeah.
Ways to make the chorus pop a little bit.
Yeah.
And we use reverse cymbals a lot, or just there's a lot of tools to kind of
They
make the chorus pop in your face a little more.
Yeah, there's whole, like risers and things like that. There's you know, like sample banks where you can pull from. Like you know, a lot of people use bass drops, obviously, and like our big reverb kick drum I use. You know, just stuff to create impact and effect and stuff or whatever. Of course, we'll get into that when we do the mix. I don't know that we used much anything synthetic on this song or whatever.
No, this song was
But yeah, we could talk about that. Have fun. That's what this is about. But yeah, one thing I wanted to mention real quick that I thought about, and you know, Tommy, you're doing excellent with it. But one thing that I make notes, like before you start tracking, try to find out from the client if they're uncomfortable with like people being present, like other band members.
Yeah, I was going to
Like
talk
me
about that with
sitting, like,
vocals.
3 feet away from you.
Yeah, Well, you know, like obviously Tommy's
Yeah.
you know, a weathered musician. He's
Right.
tons of studio experience, stuff like that. But I feel like that really affects some people.
It does.
Because a lot of times you're thinking about what the people with you know the audience is thinking about, and not what you're supposed to be thinking about, and that's the music and the performance. And it's odd enough to have to play in front of an engineer that you've only known for a short while. But that's one thing I always try to talk about to the client. I'm like, hey, do you want me to send everybody out of the room? Are you comfortable with the other band members? You know, some people actually like having people. They feed off of it. They have more energy and they actually play better with an audience. But you know, some people are just like, I just want to be by myself and not distracted. And I try to, you know, I've had other situations where bands, you know, they'll have members or a member who was trying to play the role of a producer, and they're really dragging the whole thing down because they're like, you know, they have that brother relationship or brother sister relationship, and they're dragging the person down instead of being constructive. And I'm just like, hey, dude, let's let this guy do what he's got in mind, capture that, and then you can come in and we can produce it after the fact, you know, in a more constructive fashion or whatever. So I can kind of be, you know, I usually don't bring it up unless I notice it's an issue or whatever. And with Between the Buried and Me, I mean, they're comfortable, and you know, I kind of know how they are with things or whatever.
But over the years, I mean,
Yeah.
I used to never have anyone in the studio with vocals, especially.
Yeah. And you still prefer
Yeah, I mean,
by
yeah,
you know, just being us or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, too many hands in the cookie jar thing is never good. You know, you get too many people say, "Oh, try this, try that." And it's like, dude, he's playing it. Let him try what he had in mind. Especially when the band's like a democracy, or you know, you have a band structure, and it's not like a songwriter with a hired group of people. If you have a songwriter hired group of people, I think like with Will, who did the drums, Tommy needed to be there to kind of help direct him. And Tommy was cool and let him do whatever he wanted to do anyway, for the most part. But you know, we were able there to kind of convey the ideas a little more and say what you like, what you don't like, things of that nature. But yeah, it's something I just wanted to interject there. But
Great point.
let's punch in halfway. I think the first half's good, right? Yeah. All right. Those two
Let's
were
go
good.
for there, yeah. Sorry.
So we have two more until the build.
Okay.
So Let's do the build one more time. I want to
Okay.
get to match the other one a little better.
Can I hear what I did?
Yeah, that's one thing I want to mention while we're tracking guitars. 2 guitar player bands, particularly in metal. You usually, I've learned, and this is an industry standard approach or whatever, is to have 1 guitar player track the part and then do the guitar lift. Even if you got 2 guitar players, because everybody plays a little different, the phrasing's different. And I'm a big fan of, let's use the same amp and the same guitar and the same guitar player left and right, so you get matched, nice tight, particularly with metal and stuff that you want tight and articulate, because that's a really, I do understand that using different amps and different guitars and stuff sometimes can make it sound wider, but I think having intonation issues based on different players, different guitars, tone unbalances and things like that from system to system, to me is not worth the slight wideness you get from having different, I would rather it be tight. That's kind of the point, it's one of the things you focus on. With a rock band, like say for Guns N' Roses or something like that, you had Slash and Izzy, you know what I'm saying? You have
Those
different
imperfections
players.
were
That was
good.
cool for that style of music. So it's completely relative to the style of music. Tommy's obviously a one-man show, so it's like, obviously he's going to double himself. But this style of music would be cool maybe with 2 guitar
Yeah,
players,
it
who
would.
knows?
No, totally.
But yeah, that's just something I was thinking about that I normally talk about that I normally do myself. And that's sometimes becomes a debate within a band. Like you got a 2 guitar player band, and then some guys like, there's always one guy who's better than the other guy, and that probably should track most everything, and the other guy's like not happy about it.
Yeah, that's a different discussion.
Yeah, so that'll tie into the
that's a personal
psychology
thing.
of stuff
Yeah.
or whatever. But as an engineer, I got to try to, a lot of times I try to get the guy who's not quite as good on as much stuff as you can. Like, hey, like you do these parts and then you do these parts. Just teach him your harmony or whatever. To try to be a liaison, so that everybody gets some action on the record and feels like fair. Especially when you got a band situation that's unsigned and everybody's like paying. They're like, well, I'm not going to be on the record. This is crazy, but it really would sound better if the same guy doubles it. Every once in a while, I'll find a band that, I had a band once that had twin guitar players and they played exactly the same and it worked
crazy.
out. Wow. But that is very rare.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So just a little thing as a producer, I think it's, a lot of times I have clients, who send me masters and their guitars are just really loose, and it's because they let different people track left and right. They don't understand how to they're like, I quantize the guitars, they just still sound loose. I'm like, dude, you can tell it's 2 different players. This guy's kind of half palm muting, this guy's really tightly palm muting, and it just sounds bad. It would sound good if this guy, either guy doubled themselves, it would sound good. So, but anyway, let's finish this build up, and you want to hear the kind of an even build up there.
Okay. Whammy.
Gotcha. I like it. And I made a mistake there. I cut the recording off before the reverb trail. Don't do that. But it's not a big deal. I can just fade it out or whatever. That doesn't, when it's mixed properly, that's not going to need to be there allowed anyway. But normally you want to make sure you have plenty. I'm going to edit that. Is there any more verse in this song?
We'll do the,
Oh yeah. And
which
that'll be
I
it.
think is pretty much this tone.
Yeah, let's listen to that. So it's real verbed out, right? Yeah. Heavy verb mix. And then we will be done with the guitars in this song.
Should I tie this off?
Yes, please. I may have added more verb in the computer, but that sounds about right?
Yeah.
Let's add a little bit of compression to make it. I'm using compression in this instance to just add a little bit of sustain to the notes.
And this is an instance halfway through the verse, the vocals changed. I use the verse as a building to the a build up to the chorus, and halfway through, we're like, the guitar, there needs to be something else. Because this is what I had written, and this little thing we're adding right now.
Yeah, we just kind of stumbled on these melodies.
We just, you know, I was just messing around, and I was like, I want something very, very, very simple that doesn't take away anything, but it adds a cool texture in the background. So that's kind of where this part came from.
You know, just give a little more, we'll add a little more orchestration to
Yeah.
Because these are counter
Melody, yeah. Depeche Mode.
Actually, I'm gonna put these are consider them kind of lead. If you notice, I group things like
Jamie, can I hear the original 1 second? Would that
yes,
be-
sir.
Sorry.
Yeah, I accidentally had the lead tracks engaged. You want any specific side? Just one of the sides?
The low side,
Gotcha.
not that one.
Not that one.
Yeah, that. Okay, thanks. That's all I need.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I added a little extra reverb in the mix, processed it on there. And this is actually a left and right part, so I'm gonna track it left and right. Sweet. Feel good about that?
Yeah.
And let's do the other side. That's one thing about Tommy, like I said, for the most part, and between the Bury Me guys, and that I recommend, and we'll talk about this more later. But the being prepared before you come in, like I said, this is the part that Tommy we added to the whole thing. But the rest of the song was pretty much written and rehearsed to a degree, and so we had time to mess around with. Taking it to the next
nailed
level.
all the parts, and then you had
we got the
guts,
all
yeah.
the basic guts or whatever. Then you have time. I have bands all the time who write on their computer, and they don't.
You can't hear what it's going to sound like.
Yeah, they don't.
When you do that.
But they don't rehearse, or they play. Write stuff that beyond their ability to play, and then we spend all the time just tracking the bare bones, and then we're out of time. In terms of.
Well, that's a good question for you, Tommy. What are some things that you do, as in your from the writing process to the studio, that makes the studio time
A
more
lot.
successful?
I wasn't going to touch on that tomorrow, but,
Okay.
but I can touch on it now.
No, let's touch on it tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's save it. So
there's a good deal.
tune
of
in
information
tomorrow
there.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
But I mean, I know with anything I do and between the Baron and me, it's always good to have those extra days that you can sit back and everybody's already listened to it in their cars or whatever they normally listen to music on. And this part's empty. We need something, even if it's something as little as this. Like, this is one of my favorite parts of the record, and no one will probably notice but me, but it's just that simple melody makes this part really unique and cool to me. Yeah. So I think just having that extra little time is really nice to make parts pop.
Yeah, and then being prepared allows that. Time to, because even if you do schedule, I have tons of bands. I always schedule more than enough time that I think it should take, and somehow the bands oftentimes end up using all that time even. And it's just like, man. And a lot of times I get lucky and the record turns out great anyway. Yeah. But there's a lot of times, man, it's like this record could have been better.
And there's a fine line too. You don't want too much time. Because you
Totally,
don't want to overthink. You don't want to put too much over it.
Yeah, there's that too, and
know?
that's part of my job. Is kind of like, okay, I think we're over line.
Yeah.
Everything we're doing now is stuff that no person will notice.
When we start putting like horse sounds. And
that's my fault.
Chickens. And
Yeah, a lot of times I tell clients to, if it feels good, roll with it. If it doesn't, obviously we ideally come back and listen to everything and make sure it's good sonically. But if it doesn't feel good, just do it again, especially if it's easy. Here's the third one. Awesome. And I think that concludes our guitar tracking. Let's pretend that we listened to all this and we decided, hey, all the guitars are rocking. Let's track some bass.
That was the kind of whole idea behind the song. I've never written a song that's one pretty much melody the whole time and basing a song around that. That was kind of the idea. So bass will go by very quickly.
Cool.
Let's do it.
So we want
Am I good to unplug?
Set it
We
up.
need some tech help patching in the bass probably real quick. And,
Sure.
But other than that,
Okay.
And I can talk about kind of what we were saying, like if something feels wrong. Okay. If something feels wrong when you're tracking, to just speak up. That's something over the years, I've learned to just do it. Like no matter what, not if it's gonna make somebody upset or if it's gonna make a little more work for you or Jamie, like you need to say it, because I think every musician, when you listen back to records, you're like, there's that part. You always remember it. You're like, I wish I would have changed that. And almost every record I've ever been on, there's those moments. And with this record especially, I stayed at the studio for the first time I've ever done that. And so in the mornings, I would get up by myself and listen to the songs, and every little thing that bothered me, I made sure to fix. And this was the first time I was like, why haven't I always done that? Because there's little things that no one would know, but it's just little things that bother you. So speak up if something bothers you, especially as a vocalist, because those little things will get to you because it's your voice. When you hear your voice, it's awkward anyway. Totally. So. Yeah,
so you would
that's
listen
something.
over and over and then would you just make a list of notes that you would then take to Jamie?
Yeah, there's certain things, and I even with this record, I cut 2 songs, which with the band, we normally don't, we normally write what's gonna be on the record.
Yeah.
And that's how I've always done things, and I remember I think we tracked for 12 days for this project, and
How many songs did you do, for the whole project?
12 total.
So 12 in 12 days.
Yeah. And
Wow.
we tracked 14. Keep in mind, there's 2 of the songs were electronic, they got cut.
Okay.
So a lot of that's already done.
Yeah.
So basically what we focused on was the live instruments, drums, vocals, guitars, bass. But yeah, just sitting back and, every morning I would sit back and those 2 songs would come on and I'd just be like, they don't work. They don't,
They're
they
not
don't
fitting
sound
in.
like they should be on this record. I like the songs.
Yeah.
They're close to me because I wrote them.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's important to just.
Was it stylistically? It didn't fit the rest of the
It just didn't
wasn't
fit.
cohesive. Or?
I know a lot of people know the band and me for doing a lot of different sounds but at the same time we love things to flow and feel good. Even if it doesn't feel good to somebody else, we're like, this is a bunch of chaos. But to us, it has to really feel right, and an album has to flow as an album, not song to song. That's how we've always approached. And with those songs, it just every time I got to it, I was like, I would probably cut the record off right now if I was listening, or change the song. So those are the
think that's a
moments.
good
I think just
indicator.
finding those faults in yourself and those things that you should change, it's important. And it's taken me a long time to realize that. Because I would always be like, I'll get over it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But
it's
now,
good enough.
I'll listen back an old record. I'm like, there's that part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't change it.
Huh.
So
when you're writing for Between the Buried and Me,
Mm-hmm.
do you write? You're writing a tune. Do you write all the parts out and then
No.
you take those parts to the band and
It
they
really
change
depends.
it and
it really depends. If it's something that's if it's a guitar riff, I'll write how I think the sections should sound. Sometimes I put crappy sounding fake drums on it just to be like, this is kind of the feel for the part. Or it could just literally be a riff.
yeah.
And
you take
sometimes,
that to the band.
yeah, or sometimes that works with something somebody else has written. It really depends. Some things I'll start with keys. It really just depends. But we all write a lot on our own, and then as a group we kind of get the songs how we want.
Cool.
Lot
It's
lot
cool
of
to have
preparation.
Yeah.
With Between the Buried and Me, a lot more than I'll talk about this stuff tomorrow. My preparation, which
Yeah, I'm
was
excited for the
fairly
songwriting.
simple, but Between the Buried and Me, like we're doing that right now. We're writing a new record, and it's just spending so much time. I mean, people really don't realize how much work goes into, and it's work that nobody will ever know about, and then we're not getting paid for. You know, so it's like,
But it's necessary work.
oh, it's totally
So,
necessary.
So how many tunes do you write? You said you wrote, or you recorded 14, ended up with 12.
Mm-hmm.
For a normal record for Between the Buried and Me, how many songs do you
depends.
write?
Oh, we're weird. We do,
Yeah.
like our last record was a concert record, so it was kind of a big piece of music, and certain songs would be cut up into multiple songs. So it's hard to be like, this is a song, this is a song. There's like segues, but anywhere between 8 and 12 tracks normally, hardly ever more.